It began with a smile, one that didn't last long. 17-year-old Sarah Grace Patrick walked into a Georgia courtroom in July 2025, shoulders back, face calm, even hopeful. She believed she'd be walking out soon, that her innocence and her good reputation would speak for themselves. Friends and family filled the benches behind her, nodding in quiet solidarity. Her grandfather swore she couldn't have done it. Her father said she'd never shown a violent bone in her body. But the confidence in that courtroom would soon unravel, as the truth behind one of Carrollton's darkest family tragedies began to surface. Sarah wasn't there for a misunderstanding or a teenage mistake. She stood accused of murdering her mother, Kristen Brock, and stepfather, James Brock, two people who had raised her, loved her, and by all accounts, turned their lives around after years of hardship. She faced 2 counts of murder and a story that would shock everyone who once believed in her innocence. The horror began early on the morning of February 20th, 2025, in a quiet home on Tyus Road, Carrollton, Georgia. Around 7:15 a.m., a 5-year-old girl, Sarah's younger half-sister, Jay, walked into her parents' bedroom. What she saw would haunt her forever. Her mother and father lay lifeless on the floor, their bodies surrounded by blood. The child's screams echoed through the house, waking Sarah, who rushed to the scene. She tried to calm Jay, but soon realized the unimaginable had happened. She called 911, her voice shaking as she reported the scene. When police arrived, they were met with a chilling quiet. The Brocks had been shot multiple times. There were no signs of forced entry, no broken locks, no shattered glass, no struggle. It looked like an execution carried out by someone who knew exactly where to go and when to strike. Investigators immediately began collecting evidence, taking note of every detail, every anomaly. Something felt off, something intimate about the crime itself. Whoever had done this knew the victims well. Within hours, the house became a sealed crime scene, yellow tape fluttering in the morning breeze. Crime scene technicians moved carefully through the rooms, documenting every drop of blood, every shell casing. The bedroom told the full story: 2 people killed in their sleep, no chance to fight back, no chance to scream. While investigators worked, another question loomed large. What would happen to the surviving children? They were placed temporarily under the care of Caitlin O'Keefe, a family friend who had known Sarah's biological father years earlier. Under O'Keefe's roof, Sarah seemed calm, even composed. Within days, she returned to school. Teachers and classmates noted her unusual steadiness. No tears, no outbursts, no signs of grief. For some, that composure looked like strength. For others, it looked like something much darker. To understand what led to this tragedy, investigators dug into the Brocks family history. Kristen, Sarah's mother, had once struggled with drug addiction. Her first marriage ended in turmoil, with court records citing unrehabilitated substance abuse issues and an unsafe environment for children. She eventually rebuilt her life, marrying James Brock, a man who himself had faced health challenges but found redemption through faith. Together, they became active members of Catalyst Church in Carrollton, presenting themselves as a family renewed by religion and purpose. But behind that polished image, cracks were forming. James suffered from a serious heart condition that required an LVAD device, a mechanical pump that kept his heart beating. It was a fragile existence, and everyone in the house knew how crucial that machine was to his survival. When it beeped, it meant something was wrong. That detail would later become central to the prosecution's case. Sarah told police that on the night of February 19th, just hours before the murders, she heard the LVAD alarm go off around 11:45 p.m. But she didn't check on him. She didn't call her mother or dial for help. Instead, she claimed she went back to sleep, and somehow, just a few hours later, failed to hear the gunshots that ended her parents' lives. Investigators found the contradiction impossible to ignore. Then came the revelation that changed everything. After her parents' deaths, Sarah began reaching out to true crime influencers on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. She messaged creators asking them to cover her parents' case, describing it as super interesting and something their audience would love. The tone was casual, almost promotional. To investigators, it wasn't the behavior of a grieving daughter. It was the behavior of someone trying to control a story before it controlled her, a ploy to divert attention from getting suspected. When the screenshots surfaced, the public was stunned. Prosecutors called it an attempt to manipulate perception and manage her image before she was even a suspect. They described Sarah as someone obsessed with true crime content, fascinated by killers, investigations, and media coverage. It seemed she had taken that fascination too far, crossing the line between observer and participant. As detectives dug deeper, they uncovered disturbing digital evidence. Forensic analysis of Sarah's phone and computer revealed incriminating searches. Can police trace bullets? How long does forensic analysis take? And how to dispose of a gun? They also found angry text messages directed at her parents, filled with resentment and hostility. In one message, she wrote, "I can't wait until they're gone." To prosecutors, this was more than teenage frustration, it was motive. Yet even with all this, one key piece of evidence was missing: the murder weapon. Police searched everywhere, inside the home, the yard, nearby woods, and even local waterways, but the gun had vanished. No registered firearms were linked to the family. Investigators suspected she might have obtained it through an untraceable private sale and later disposed of it. Despite the missing weapon, the case against her grew stronger with each new digital discovery. By July 2025, months after the murders, Sarah was arrested and charged as an adult. Her booking photo showed the same expression she wore in court: calm, unreadable. During the bond hearing, her defense argued that she was a child, a victim of trauma who posed no danger to anyone. They called on character witnesses: her pastor, her teachers, and Caitlin O'Keefe, all describing her as polite, helpful, and gentle. But then came the voices of the victim's family, the people who had lost everything. Kim Bowling, James Brock's sister, took the stand. Through tears, she begged the judge not to release Sarah, describing the unbearable pain her family endured. She spoke of her niece Jay, the little girl who found her parents' bodies, and the nightmares that now defined her life. "Please," she pleaded, "don't let her out. Not after what she's done." Another statement came from Jaden Brock, James's 12-year-old son. Too young to speak in court, his letter was read aloud. "I trusted Sarah and I loved her like a sister. Why would she do this? Why would she hurt everyone like this?" The words hung heavy in the courtroom, leaving even those who had defended Sarah silent. In the end, the judge denied bond, citing the severity of the crimes and the risks Sarah posed if released. She would remain in jail until trial. The courtroom fell into uneasy quiet as the decision was read. Sarah's expression didn't change. The confident smile from the beginning was long gone, replaced by something colder, unreadable. The case of Sarah Grace Patrick is more than just a murder trial. It's a story about control, perception, and the dark intersections of technology and tragedy. It's about how a young woman, immersed in true crime culture, may have used that knowledge to craft her own narrative, one she hoped to manipulate before anyone realized she was part of the story. It's a chilling reminder of how obsession with image and online attention can twist reality, turning grief into performance and tragedy into spectacle. In an era where every story becomes content, the line between truth and entertainment grows dangerously thin. This case forces us to ask hard questions about family, empathy, and the way social media shapes how we experience human suffering. Was Sarah Patrick a cold-blooded killer who planned the perfect crime? Or was she a deeply disturbed teenager, broken by years of tension and neglect, whose fascination with true crime blurred her grasp on reality? The court will decide. Until then, the small town of Carrollton will continue to mourn 2 lives lost, and a third that may be lost in a very different way. If you found this story compelling and want to hear more true crime reports like this, don't forget to hit the subscribe button for future uploads.